Saturday, September 6th, 1800, 10 a.m., at the home of Captain John. Present as before, Captain William Claus, Acting Deputy Superintendent General, Lieutenant Givens, Agent, Indian Affairs, Lieutenant McQueen, Queen's Rangers, Mr. David Price, Interpreter, Mr. Nathaniel Lyons, Interpreter, Mr. Ferguson, Kingston, P. Selby, Assistant Secretary, Indian Affairs, the chiefs and the others of the Mohawk Indians residing there, Lieutenant Fortier, Captain John, in continuation.
After the Negro boy had struck Christine, the widow of the younger Lawrence, who was also killed, got up, on which John Green ran up to her with his tomahawk with design to kill her and her mother. But Captain Isaac, seeing it, called out, "Stop! We have done enough," and Green stopped accordingly. When Lawrence's widow recovered her senses, she got up and saw them struggling very much. Abraham Hill with a tomahawk and a knife, and the two Lofts with clubs, beating the deceased Lawrence the son. When he was killed, Captain Isaac's son and John Green attacked his brother Thomas and ran a knife through his arm, which not being able to pull it out again. Thomas sprung from them with a knife through his arm, but before that blow was made at him with a tomahawk by Captain Isaac's son, which cut his hat and grazed off without any material injury. After the business was all over, Captain Isaac went among his people and inquired if any of them were wounded. They answered that 2 of them were wounded, his son and Abraham Hill. The elder Lawrence, not dead yet, sat up, but senseless. When Captain Isaac went up to him and asked him, shaking his fist at him, "Are you satisfied now?" But Lawrence was incapable of making any answer. Captain Isaac then went to the elder Lawrence's widow, who was standing up and the blood running down her head, and asked if she was satisfied. And then he said, "Go and desire your brother, Captain John, to come here, and I will serve him with the same manner," pointing to the dying father and son. "Can you withstand us?" She answered, "No, there are great in number of you, and we are almost killed." When Isaac's daughter heard her speak, she ran up again with a club to knock her down and told her if she spoke another word, she would knock her brains out. Captain Isaac then stepped forward and told her to be done, as he supposed she would not live long, having received so many bruises already. Captain Isaac asked the widow of the Lawrences, "Why did you not obey orders? You know you were numerous and a strong party." He then turned about and went away, saying, "Come, let us go. We have done enough," and pointing to Thomas's tomahawk, which was lying on the ground, said, "It is our custom when we go to war that we take weapons of our enemies. Take up that, and if the owner of it wants to, let him come to me." And then gave it to Joseph Hill. After Captain Isaac and his party had gone away, Christine got up and came away, and in passing the church on her way to my house, she desired in person to ring the bell. When she told me the story, I answered, I was not surprised, as they had always a variance and expected something of this kind would happen. I then took 2 men and went to the spot to inquire into the matter. Before I went thither, I called the Lawrence's house and saw the ground and the floor of the house bloody and the children in tears. The young man Thomas, who had been wounded, having gone upstairs and laid himself on his bed. We then stripped and took arms and went to the place where we found the younger Lawrence, yet alive, and his mother washing his face. The young man spoke to me and said, "I am yet in my senses. It is not my fault that this happened. I was not to blame, and I hope you will forgive me. God Almighty is the master of us all. God's will be done." I then desired his people to lay out the bodies in order to have them carried away. The entrails of young Lawrence were hanging out, and they moved as he breathed. This was about noon, and the elder Lawrence had been killed earlier in the morning, but was so much defaced by blows that his features were not known again. This place where this scene had been acted was spacious, and the ground and brush about the place was all bloody, as if cattle had been killed there. This was by the violent struggles of the younger Lawrence, who made many efforts in defending himself. The young man being yet alive, we thought to get him to his house, and carried him away, leaving his dead father behind. When we got about 300 yards, he said, "Uncle, put me down, for I am gone," and died immediately. We then said prayers over him and carried him to the house. Instead of Captain Isaacs and his party taking care of any of the dead, they had armed themselves and were at Captain Isaac's house, where they kept a guard all night. The corpse of Elder Lawrence lay on the ground where he was killed. All that night and the next morning, the body was brought down in a boat by me and my people in the house where we now are. Isaac had forbade his party to have anything to do with the dead bodies, and they were taken from this house to the grave by Bowen's people. White settlers adjoined our lands. Captain Bowen asked me to go out with him to John Howell, a magistrate who told him he had a message from Captain Isaac, importing that he wished to hold a council with me, when it would be to see who was in the wrong, and that they wished to bury the remembrance of the misfortune under the ground. I answered Captain Isaac should have considered that before, as the people are now dead and cannot answer for themselves. Captain Isaac may now say what he pleases, as the people are dead, who could have given the best account of the matter. It is now 10 years that he has abstained himself from every council in the village, except a few times. And when he did come, he said nothing for the good of the village. He now wants to hold a council when it is too late, but I do not wish to see him there. I have only one more thing to say, and that is I wish he may never do the like again, nor ever oppose me again in the business of the village. 2 days after the burial, I went up to the widow Lawrence's house to see them, when I heard firing of guns and hollowing of Captain Isaac as if rejoicing, and they continued to keep a guard there. Ever since that time, people have always gone armed and never separate, but in parties of 2 or 3 or more. A Negro man named Adam Funn was always in Isaac's party, and very active since the death of Lawrence's. Thought not present by the 10th June, this man had not one drop of Indian blood in him, his father being a Negro and his mother a Dutch woman. On the 19th July last, Captain Isaac held a council in the woods and asked his party whether, in case the government were to take them up, they would resist and support each other. And they all said they would sooner lose their lives than be taken, as they would not wish to be made prisoners. After this, a party of them with Captain Isaac and their head was formed, who went in a boat to Kingston, and I went thither on horseback about the same time, and saw them walking about in parties as usual with their tomahawks. They encamped near Parson Stewart's in order to get his advice on what to do. Seeing things go on in this manner, and considering what was best for me to do, I first wrote a letter on the subject to Sir John Johnson, but receiving no answer, thought it best to go to York, and lay the whole matter before the governor. Now, brothers, I have stated all the matter in the clearest manner I am able. Captain Isaac told you 2 days ago to look clearly into the whole business and see where the fault lay. The marks on the blood are yet on the floor, and you may rely that I have told you nothing but the truth. All the white people hereabouts are under great apprehension on account of this business, and that was my reason for going up to the governor in time. There is yet one thing more I wish to say. I beg you, brothers, to ask these people who are of Captain Isaac's party whether they mean to go on, as they have done, to attach themselves to a party to him. My chief study is to do my best for the good of the people, to instruct them in that which it is just honest, and to attend to their religion. For it hurts me much to see the manner in which I have spilt blood on this ground, which was given to us by the king for ourselves and our families. Captain Isaac says my mind is thick, and that this will never come to the way of thinking. It is so because I will not come to his way of thinking. For I study for the good of the village, and keep service in the church, and obey the laws of the king. Now, brother, you may depend I have stated all this matter fairly and clearly, and in the presence of all the people here.
Captain Isaac, I would be glad to ask a few questions of some of the people who were present on the unfortunate day.
My father, my brother-in-law Abraham Hill, and I set out early in the morning of the 10th June and came to the place appointed. My father, with his sword under his arm, came up to Lawrence and said, "Good morning," and Lawrence returned the compliment. My father said to Lawrence, "If we get into any quarrel, don't let us use any edged tools." My father then asked Lawrence if he received the message he sent the night before. Lawrence answered he did. Lawrence then took his cane and struck my father over the shoulder, who fell with the blow. I was a little way behind, and seeing my father fall, I could not help running up and giving Lawrence a stroke with the flat side of my tomahawk on the head. Immediately after, I and Thomas, Lawrence's younger son, met, and we attacked each other, but Thomas, being stronger than me, seized the tomahawk and took it from me, on which I took my knife and stabbed him in the arm. After this, Thomas said he was done. Abraham Hill then desired Thomas to throw away the tomahawk and set off with himself, which he did, and his life was saved by that means. When I stabbed Thomas in the arm, I left the knife in his arm, and having lost my tomahawk before, I was quite disarmed. When young Lawrence deceased, who was running after me, Abraham Hill met young Lawrence, and having had a knife put into his hands by Abraham, cut Lawrence the younger in the belly with the knife. Lawrence still had my father down. I came up and took up the elder Lawrence cane and began to beat him about the head. In the meantime, John Green, my brother-in-law, came up and tomahawked Lawrence. When my father called out, "There's enough done." My father then got up and asked Lawrence if he was satisfied with that. Lawrence's wife then told my father she would take an opportunity of getting satisfaction for what he had done, on which my sister told her there was no time like the present, and took a stick and knocked her down. After we got home, my father, seeing the tomahawk of Thomas, asked why we brought that with us, saying, "Throw it away, you have no business with that." As also a knife which I had picked up, and they were thrown into the river and recovered some days after by Joseph Hill. I got a cut on the back of my head during the affray, but do not know who gave it.
Lawrence, when he and Captain Isaac first met on the 10th of June, struck Captain Isaac, who fell, and when down, Lawrence was upon him. I went up with a club and struck Lawrence 8 or 9 times across the back. I also saw the young Lawrence deceased strike Abraham Hill and William with a tomahawk.
Having met Isaac's Negro boy by accident, the boy told me his master was going to have a battle. I then determined and said I would go see it. That John Green and William went along with me. After the usual salutations of good morning, some words arose about Lawrence beating some of Isaac's children. That Lawrence got into a passion, and while in the act of lifting his stick to strike Isaac, Isaac attempted to draw his sword, but before he got it quite out of the scabbard, a blow from Lawrence's stick struck Captain Isaac on the back of the head, and in his fall the sword went one way and the scabbard another, and the reason of the Captain Isaac being struck on the back of the head was his endeavoring by stooping to avoid the blow. As Captain Isaac had desired us not to interfere in the business, I sat quietly and looked on. When Captain Isaac's son William saw his father fall, he ran up and struck Lawrence on the head with the flat of his tomahawk. When Thomas, the son of Lawrence, saw that he ran up to William, and they attacked each other with the tomahawk, and while I was yet sitting down, the young Lawrence, who was killed, ran up to me with the tomahawk, and before I could get up, I received a blow on my head with the edge of the tomahawk, my own having fallen as I attempted to get up. I was some time senseless with the blow, but on recovering myself, the blood flowed freely from the wound. Lawrence, seeing me again standing up, returned to me and said, "Now you shall die," and made a blow to my head with the tomahawk, but the handle, having struck my head, broke the skin only, which together with the loss of the blood weakened me so much that I fell again. At that time John Green came up and went to old Lawrence and sunk his tomahawk in his head. As he was going to repeat his blow on old Lawrence, young Lawrence came up and made a stroke at me with his tomahawk and broke the handle. He then seized the blade of Lawrence's tomahawk, and while they were struggling, the Negro boy belonging to Captain Isaac came up with a club and struck young Lawrence upon the head and the shoulders. Lawrence said to the Negro if he did not go away he would kill him, and the boy went away. Thomas came up while Lawrence and I were struggling for the tomahawk and struck a knife into my back, and soon afterward gave me another cut on my shoulders and another on my thigh. Thomas then made a blow at my breast with the knife, but I stopped his hand and warded off the blow. Young Lawrence was running after William, Isaac's son, and as they were passing him he took out his knife, and as Lawrence passed I held out my hand with the knife and cut Lawrence across the lower part of his belly, which wound occasioned his death. Lawrence, however, rose again when John Green came up with a tomahawk and cut him in the back of the neck.
Captain Isaac's Negro boy was desired to say what was the message he took from Lawrence to Captain Isaac.
Lawrence told me to inform Captain Isaac to appoint a place to meet him and fight him, and that if he did not deliver the message, he would flog me.
The Negro boy was also asked whether Lawrence was armed when Lawrence and Captain Isaac met.
He had a cane, and Captain Isaac had a sword.
Adjourned till Monday morning, 10 a.m., September 8th.